Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and very good morning. So this is one of the current technology in web. So I believe you already took this course, the cloud computing, but I want to share this as a current issues. Not issues, it's current technology that being occupied by most of the users of the internet. For example, when you want to share something, you want you want to upload something in the cloud or in the server, so that it seems like all data is stored somewhere else, far away from you. So we can use this type of cloud computing. Okay, what is it actually? Okay, even though you already took this course, so technically the cloud computing is some kind of server computing where everything is being done. It's not in front of you. You as a front end and the back end is in the server, or maybe it's in the far location from your local area. So it's actually some kind of remote accessibility to this. Okay, this is a few topics that I want to discuss. What is the cloud computing itself? What is the cloud service model? Okay, cloud deployment model. Why cloud computing, and what is the cloud vendors? So at the end of the lesson, you should be able to define and know what is computing, cloud computing, and review various type of services offered and deployment models that are available in cloud computing. You know how to explain the cloud computing evolution and development of enabling technologies related to cloud computing. And then you understand how cloud computing is utilized and why it is gaining popularity and momentum. So, and 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 the last one, okay, you able to understand how to compare and summarize the major cloud computing vendors. Okay, we begin with what is a cloud computing. The practice of using a network of remote servers hosted on the internet to store, manage, and process data, rather than a local server or a personal computer. Everything is stored far away from you or in the system of remote server, through network. Remember, the internet itself, the definition of the internet itself is the internet working, whereby that is the largest network computing in the world, where people connected each other with various protocol that enable the connectivity from one node to another. Okay, when I said one node, so that means it can be any devices that support network and then enable to communicate between one nodes to another. So that is the cloud computing. Okay, most of you, maybe you already use as a storage, but we can manipulate all of the storage data by processing it into useful information. Okay, and then it can be a process with various services such as application and anything else. Okay, for the storage, you already do that, and then when I want you to go to Google Sheet, okay, and then fill up a few things, fill up information, and then I share your my slide presentation in Google Slide. So that means that is the Office application inside a Google server. So that means as long as you have a web browser, okay, and then you have an internet access to the Google server, so you can use that application, okay, without install it in your local PC. So that is some story of the cloud computing. How it works using sharing application. So there is another definition by Webster Dictionary: the practice of storing regularly used computer data on multiple servers that can be accessed through the internet. Okay, again, the backbone of this is the network computing. So, in NST, National Institute of Standards and Technologies, okay, cloud computing is a model of enabling convenience on-demand network access to a shared pool of configurable computing resources, for example, network storage application and services that can be rapidly provisioned and released with minimal management effort or service provider interaction. This cloud model promotes availability and is composed of 5 essential characters, 3 service models and 4 deployment models. That one I'm going to discuss after this. So basically, you will see these words, minimal management effort or service provider interaction. So that means everything is done by you actually. So the provider just give services, give the shared application, give the shared server storage. Everything is done by you. So the size of usability is going to be charged. It's not free. Okay, even though there is free services. For example, if you're using Google Cloud, they only give a few gigabyte for the storage. If you want to improve or scalable your storage, so you need to pay more. The same thing, the same thing. If you are using a server, for example, as a web server, okay, even the bandwidth, okay, even the bandwidth and the data transferred from a user of or your client to the web server is getting increased, so it's going to be charged for the accessibility of the bandwidth. All right, so there's a various definition, but once again I want to remind you, it is just the backbone of this is a network computing. So 5 key of the cloud characteristic, like in the definition by NST, it's an on-demand self-service, ubiquitous network access, location-independent resource pooling, and rapid elasticity, pay for what you use. Okay, what is on-demand self-service? So on-demand self-service is you as a user will determine how part that you want to use, how often do you want to use, what you are going to set up. So that is a demand of service. There is no force requirement actually from the service provider. It's up to you. As long as, for example, you're doing a small project, for example, a static website, you maybe only get less than 1 gigabyte of size, maybe less than a half of gigabyte, or maybe less than 10 a megabyte, maybe a one shot of notification or one page of information, but tremendously you need bandwidth. So that means you need a traffic to your content of your web server. So that's the different charge. Maybe your storage charge is smaller, but the bandwidth charges from the service provider is quite larger compared to the storage. So it is the ubiquitous network access. What do you mean by ubiquitous network access? Like I said before, as long as you have these nodes or devices that have these network capabilities, you have the internet, and then there you go. Any devices, any handheld devices, small, big, as long as they fulfill the protocol of communicating between your devices to the service provider, that means a server, that's it. Okay, you are able to do so. No need for you to care about the application, the installation application, the bottleneck management of the network, so on and so forth. So you just use it, and then if you set it any accessibility, you're going to pay for that service. And then we have a location independent resource pooling. So location independent resource pooling, it means for example, if this is Azure Microsoft, where the location of the server is various, okay, and then you don't have any speed or accessibility issues. Okay, because it is being done by the service provider. In this case, it's a Microsoft. Okay, they have all of these servers scattered around the world. When some servers is quite bottleneck or busy with the traffic, and then it will going to be transferred to another server. Okay, and rapid elasticity. So that means um, it's up to you whether you want to scale it into a greater size. Okay, if you want to set it into the smaller size, and then it's you to set the advantage. But this is the issue where you set, especially during the bottleneck traffic from request by the user. Okay, it's up to you to set whether you want to preset it as a huge volume of bandwidth, or maybe you set it as a on demand. So that means if the service traffic is not increased, so you stay with the lower bandwidth. But suddenly, if the demand is rise, so you just set it to expanding or make it scalable to the during that time. Okay, and the last characteristic of cloud is a pay for what you use. So this is uh, it's up to you to set. And once again, why I keep repeating, it's up to you to use. Okay, because when you set it, okay, when you set the cloud services, okay, whether it is automatically charges if on demand services is increased, or maybe you stay for what you are. But the problem going to be if the traffic is congested, that's it. Okay, no improvement in terms of traffic, because it's going to set for that type of bandwidth and then connectivity. So you pay just what you use. For example, you have various services or application services that available. Not all required for you to use. Maybe you have selected a few application, and then you set a few storage for that application, and then you pay for that. Okay, it's not like in the traditional way where you buy this application, install it in your computer, and then you use it till the end. Whether you use it frequently or not, you still have the same charges. But for this, the drawback for me, the drawback, you pay for what you use. Sometimes you don't know the cost, the actual cost. You know how to set it up. Okay, you can set the limit, but sometimes, okay, it's going to excess the cost of using the cloud computing. Same like a prepaid and a postpaid. Prepaid, you know how the cost that you want to use, but when your credit is out, and then you cannot make a call. But for the postpaid, okay, there is no service interruption. You just keep, you can call till what 24 hours a day. It's up to you, but the bill going to be increased. So that is the analogy of this pay for what you use. Okay, this is the explanation that I already tell you before. You can read this on your own. The explanation of the 5 key clouds characteristic. Okay. Okay, what do you think cloud computing is? Okay, cloud computing perspective. Okay, perspective highly influenced by roles and responsibility within an organization, whether it is an end user, application developer, IT infrastructure, CIO, Chief Information Officer, and CFO, and also the service provider. Okay, as an user, what is your perspective? As an application developer, what is your perspective? Um, you as a an IT student, maybe you know what is the meaning of the end user. Okay, and then maybe you are not in this group because you already have this IT background and IT um, knowledge, and then maybe someday you have an application, you're going to be an application developer, and then move to IT infrastructure manager, CIO, CFO. Okay, so evolution of cloud computing. So we have initially it is start with the computer network actually, and then we move to the grid computing. So the grid computing is solving large problem with a parallel computing mainstream by global alliance. We have utility computing. Okay, computing resources offered as a metered services. It is late 90s, before the millennium. So where the uh, charges of this using these facilities, software as a services. So this is the actually the beginning of the cloud computing. Subscription-based software access over the internet. It is gained momentum after 2001. So subscription-based software access over the internet is uh, the SaaS now, or a software as a services. It depend on what volume that you use, or what subscription package that you want to use uh, in cloud or in a server. So the next generation data centers with virtualization technology, with a full stack of services, we have this component of infrastructure as a services, uh, PaaS and SaaS. So that is the cloud computing. Okay, where actually the evolution, the history of the cloud computing is when people try to use a computer as a medium to communicate with the server. Everything is being processed by the server. Okay, that is the idea. The main. During that time, it's going to use locally. And then we have utility computing, where uh, computing resources offered as a metered service. It's depend on what demand you use, but still in local. Okay, and then we have SaaS and cloud computing, whereby this is the beginning of cloud computing era. Okay, key enabling the technologies: ubiquitous fast wide area network, a powerful and inexpensive server, high performance visualization technology. Okay, let's stay one by one first. Ubiquitous fast wide area network. So like I said before, okay, as long as you have an internet access, you can use it. You can use all of the application. Powerful and inexpensive server. Okay, if you find a price for the server, okay, that you want to use for the local area network setup or LAN, you're going to find it is very expensive. Okay, a large company, or maybe a medium size and large company, have this affordable or allocation for these servers. When we do this for the cloud computing, everything is pay for what you use. For example, if you want to use a very simple storage, for example, even it is a free for a few gigabyte, and then after that you're going to be charged, right? And then the high performance visualization technology. What is the meaning of this? It's actually the application. Okay, the application that is for you to run in the front end virtually, and then but the application is run actually in the server. So this is the process. What is this cloud computing? Okay, make it available now. Okay, in the next futures, okay, in future maybe, okay, maybe you only have a very low performance of laptop, but we need a high speed of internet, and then we need a fast processing server, okay, in cloud. So if this all of this thing is fulfilled by us, all of us, so it's gonna be happen, a cloud computing technology going to be used by all of us. Okay, SaaS normally is used for end users. Okay, PaaS for application developers, and IaaS for infrastructure and network architecture. Okay, so this is the service model of a cloud computing. Okay, the explanation: the software as a services, end user application delivered as a service rather than by on-premise software. So the meaning of on-premise is when application is installed locally. Platform as a services, so build on an application platform or middleware provider as a service on which developers can build and deploy custom application. So this is the part where application developers use cloud computing PaaS as a tools to develop something. Okay, and then they're going to have this application, and then this application going to be installed whether locally or externally, but it's still going to develop this thing. The end product is going to be as a SaaS, software as a services. And then we have infrastructure as a services. When it is huge, okay, it is migrate to computing, storage, or other IT infrastructure provide as a service rather than as a dedicated capability. So that means in the future, one day, as long as you have an internet, like I said before, repeatedly, you can have all of these things, from the infrastructure to the developing tools, and then to the application that you develop. Everything going to be run in cloud. So you don't worry about your physical server, okay, your devices, okay, your high-end devices. Let the cloud handle it, but ready for the charges of the services. Okay, this is the visualization. What is the difference between the on-premise, okay, infrastructure platform, and the software. Okay, I already explained that. Cloud deployment model. Okay, in cloud deployment model, we have a private cloud, we have a public cloud, and then we have a community cloud. Okay, and then we have a hybrid cloud where it can be public and private, or maybe community and private. It depend on your setting. So this is an example of a hybrid cloud. Okay, we have, like I said before, we have a private cloud and public cloud and community cloud joined together. It doesn't mean that you have the accessibility to both, especially the private cloud. It depends. For example, if you an IT manager, you can access to the public cloud, of course, and then you have an access to the private cloud, and then we have some accessibility level for the user. Maybe you as a content writer, okay, you have only a few privilege for the private cloud. Okay, this is the definition of public, private, and hybrid, and the community. Okay, let's see what is the public. Name itself will explain it. Okay, everything, and not everything, everyone can use, but as long as you give a permission. The private, this leverage existing capital expense can help reduce operating costs and intend for a single tenant. This is the advantages and characteristics. Private, for example, if you want to use for your own company and then your staff, and for example, like 10 to 15 staff, okay, you can use a private. Even a large corporation also have this, what is the public and the a private cloud. And then hybrid, like I said before, the connection between either using a public or private, and then it can be shared for everyone else or people in the community, and then we call it a community cloud. Okay, so why cloud computing? Okay, why cloud computing? Even throughout of the explanation, okay, I already mentioned a few things, the advantages of the cloud computing, and then the key, the five key that enabling this cloud computing. So this is it's not randomly. This is what why cloud computing is needed. Okay, number one is 24/7 support. Okay, and it's going to be stable for 30 hours. You don't worry about it. Okay, and if you not satisfied with the service, you can migrate to another service provider, and then it is based as you go. Okay, what you use, what you pay. Okay, it's a lower term and TCO. It says reliability, and it's scalable. Lower capital expenditure, but sometimes it's going to be rise. It's depend on your setting and the demand of your application. It's a free up internal resources. Okay, it is highly automated. It's a utility based. Utility based means like pay as you go. It's up to you to use what tools or what application that you want to use. It is easy and agile deployment. Okay, even though the process is quite tedious for you if you don't have this experience, but once you already do the cloud computing, especially using the application, and then maybe you want to develop a simple website, a simple web that have this communication or interaction between user, okay, and the server. You're going to find that using cloud computing is easier to setting or to use. For example, let's say Google site, Google site or WebEx or any Blogspot or WordPress. Everything is there. You just put a few things and then it's going to be set. And the website is already available. Okay. All right. Comparing the geographical coverage of AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. So this is three service provider, the well-known service provider. We have Alibaba currently, Huawei Cloud, but this is the picture that I can give. Okay, how people use it. If you see, okay, there is no such a server that being installed in the Africa. Maybe in the future, it's going to be all available in the world. North America, Europe, and part of the Asia. Okay, have this cloud services provider. This is an example of cloud computing. A large enterprise quickly and economically deploys new internal application to its distributed workforce. Okay, and we have a multinational company, for example, that have various a branch worldwide, and then we have this headquarters in Europe, for example, or maybe in Cyberjaya, and then we want to deploy something, we just distribute it or install it in the cloud and everyone can use it. An e-commerce website accommodates sudden demand for a hot product caused by a viral buzz. Okay, this is the issue that hopefully you understand what I'm going to explain. For example, your website, e-commerce website, okay, you have this low demand in traffic, and suddenly you have this product that is gone viral, and then suddenly everyone try to find the information about your product. And then if it is parked locally, or maybe in the traditional way of store in the web site, so there's going to be a bottleneck and then a traffic jam, that accessibility from users to your website. In the cloud computing, if you want, you enable it. It depend on the requirement. So the service speed is going to be stable. Another one is a pharmaceutical research firm execute large scale simulation using computing power provided by the cloud vendors. Okay, let's say this is research. Let's say they try to execute a large scale of a simulation. Simulation is, for example, if you take a course of data science, okay, prediction and forecasting, to have this computer or algorithm to understand what is the use or execute of the application, okay, they need a gigantic of data, okay, where your local server or your local computer won't able to do this, and then they send it to the cloud, and the cloud process it, and then it produce a result. As long as you know how to use the application, okay, there is a lot of application. It's depend on you how to use it and what application that you want to use. Okay, you may look at the big data and data science, how it is. Cloud computing give a good advantage to this process of research. And then a media company that serve unlimited video, music, and other media to their worldwide customer base. Okay, this is if you store it in your local server, and then suddenly you have a big demand on this, and then the size of the video is quite big, so it is better for you to opt for the cloud computing. Okay, so this is the comparison between Azure and AWS. AWS is Amazon Web Services. Okay, I'm not saying that Azure is good, AWS is good. No, each of the service provider have different things that can be offered for the customer. Okay, if you see for the price, okay, maybe you need to identify in detail what is your demand of using the application, and then there is a trick. There is a package. There is a package that available by the Azure and AWS for the customer. Okay, you can see this. This is I took up from Microsoft website. Okay, this is an example of the usage of Azure. Okay, Azure Active Directory users more than 500 million. The storage transaction per day more than 777 trillion transaction one day. Okay, you just imagine how they manage all of these things. Okay, messages processed by Azure IoT per month more than 1.5 trillion. Active websites that use Azure as a server, and then development of the web is more than 250,000. Okay, the percentage of Fortune 500 companies using Azure right now is more than 80%. Okay, and then it's maybe increased or maybe it's going to be decreased. It's depend on the other service provider. Okay, authentication per week is more than 13 billion. SQL database in Azure more than 1.5 million. We are not talking about table. We are talking about databases. Okay, 1.5 million database. We don't know each size of the database, how many table, how many column that is available. We have 1.5 million, and developers registered with Visual Studio Online. Okay, we have a Visual Studio Online. It's more than 1 million. Okay, maybe back then you install Visual Studio or Visual C++ or whatever visual development that you want to use, and then you install it in your computer, and then you compile it, rebuild it, and then execute, and now you can use it using cloud. What you are doing locally is now can be done externally by using a cloud computing technology. So this is the example, right, of the usage of the cloud computing provided by the Azure. So vendor lock-in. Okay, what is this? Companies that adopt cloud computing must be wary of potential vendor lock-in issues. Okay, companies' entire data is stored with a single vendor's cloud storage. Company relies on a single vendor for all of its computation, and changing vendors can be very costly. Okay, this is what I can say. It is a drawback or the disadvantage of this. Remember, everything is not in your side. Everything is installed or everything is stored outside of your location. For example, if you want to do a migration from one vendor to another vendor, for example, from Azure to AWS, okay, there is maybe charges being imposed by the existing vendors. Okay, because you want to transfer all of your data to another vendors. We are not talking about a very simple tabula data. We are talking about a processed data that's stored in the SQL databases, and maybe you want to migrate something that is a different architecture but the same algorithm and fundamentals, but with a different architecture. So each of the vendors going to be charge you how to do this. Maybe the new vendors have this some sort of discount or promotion. Okay, but this is the problem that you're going to have. Okay, that you're going to have when you are implementing. When you're using cloud computing for the large company. So that is why the migration from one vendor to another vendors unlikely happen, but it's going to be happen, because we don't know in the future. Okay, we cannot predict the future accurately because we don't know. If we have a good algorithm to predict what we want to use, like the web 5.0, web 6.0, okay, that still we don't know how the future. We can assume, we can do the forecasting, we can do the prediction, but we are not ensuring 100% what we are predicting is correct or not. Only God knows. Okay, so the summary of this, okay, in this lesson you have learned the cloud computing service model, a deployment model, and vendors log. Anything else? Okay, maybe a refreshment of your knowledge in cloud computing. Why I'm discussing this? Because this is one of the subtopic in the current trend, and then we have this one topic also, okay, for a cloud computing. All right, that's all for the cloud computing. Okay, if you thank you and a very good day.